All right. Looks like we have everyone that has joined in. It's great to be here with you all. My name is Amy Looney Heffernan. I am the president of the Travis Manion Foundation, and I am going to be joined this afternoon with our Chief Operating Officer, Josh Jabin. Josh and I look forward to this webinar each and every year. This is an annual update that we like to offer. And, at Travis Manion Foundation, we like to be very transparent. So while we're going to share a lot about our successes and our wins over the past year, we're also going to be very upfront about challenges and obstacles that we faced within the past year and how we're learning from those and how to make improvements as we talk more about what the future looks like for Travis Manion Foundation. I know many of you are probably a big part of our community who are joining us here today, whether you're a partner, you're a volunteer, a military family member, a caregiver, family of a fallen service member, and a veteran. Some of you may be new to today's conversation. So we're going to give you a little bit of an update on who we are and what we do and share a lot of the great work that's been happening within our community. So thanks to all of you for continuing to help us grow and move the needle in ensuring that our mission carries on. So just to give a little bit of a run of show of what to expect in today's conversation, Josh and I, like I said, are going to give a little bit of a recap of this past year, talk to you about the future state of the organization, but he and I can sit here and talk to you about data and statistics and a lot of the great work that's being done, but it's only a true testament to have volunteers and active, what we call Spartans, who are out there living the ethos and ensuring that this great work continues to happen each and every day. So we are lucky enough to be joined by two Army veterans who will also be sharing more about their journey, their story, what life looked like during the military and what life looks like after military service. So we'll be hearing from them later on within the hour as well. One last thing to note, many of you were so amazing in submitting a lot of great questions for Josh and I to answer. So please stay tuned till the very end. We are recording today's session. So if you have someone you want to share this with, or you don't get to watch the whole thing, please make sure you go back and take a look because we will be answering some questions that have been submitted from the audience at the very end. So to kick things off today, before I share a little bit about all of our accomplishments and what we've done collectively together this past year, I want to be mindful of the fact that we do have new people who are joining, new potential volunteers, new potential partners for us for the future. And I want to share a little bit about what really sets Travis Manion Foundation apart from so many other veteran service organizations that are also doing great work out in the community in support of our military. I like to say at Travis Manion Foundation that we are a community. We are led by veterans and families of the fallen, but we are a community for everyone. And we really believe that our veterans and our survivors are some of our nation's greatest assets. And we believe that investing in those veterans and families of the fallen, we then allow them to go out and feel empowered, to go out in their communities, to serve, and to also mentor and inspire the next generation of future leaders. And we do that all under the umbrella. Everything that we do is thread through like a needle with our ethos. 5 words that our namesake, Travis Manion, spoke himself. If not me, then who? Very important message about stepping up, taking ownership, and being a leader. And you can start in very small ways that will help you as you get to later challenges in life that can be more difficult and challenging. That ethos is something that resonates with everyone. TMF really believes that the first step in that investment is to proactively address the mental health and well-being of our veterans and our families of the fallen. We offer programs here at TMF and opportunities that address the root cause of isolation, loss of community, and purpose that veterans face after taking off the uniform and families of the fallen face after the loss of a loved one. And one way that we do this in a very large way is through our Veteran Youth Mentorship Program, and that is called Character Does Matter. This is our hallmark, our signature program, And Character Does Matter solves two problems at one time. It addresses the 55% of veterans who often feel disconnected from their life post-military service, and the 1 in 3 young adults who report not having a positive role model within their life. In this past year, we saw a 20% increase in the number of veteran mentors who taught character education to local youth. 580 veterans and families of the fallen who served as mentors were activated in communities across the country. And with that mentorship, we were able to reach and impact over 58,400 young adults. That's a pretty powerful number for just 1 year. Since the inception of the program, we have trained over 3,000 mentors who have impacted over 750,000 young adults nationwide. And this is a really powerful number for us because our ultimate long-term goal for years and years and years has been to impact through mentorship with veterans and families of the fallen leading that effort, the ability to impact and connect with 1 million youth across the country. So I think with already being at the 750,000 marker, we are going to for sure exceed that metric. One highlight from this past year within our Veteran Youth Mentorship Program, while we have trained mentors who work to develop character in youth all year round, our organization really focused on providing targeted resources on special days of recognition. And that special day this past year was Veterans Day. Our Veterans Day curriculum reached 500 plus schools across the country, impacting over 67,300 young adults, instilling in them what it means to serve and to honor those who have done so for our country. What not a better message and sentiment to come from veterans who are mentoring young adults on Veterans Day. That is something you are going to see that effort continue to come across again this spring, where we're going to focus on providing these types of similar resources for youth around Memorial Day, because we believe Memorial Day is incredibly important because it helps to ensure that our future leaders understand and appreciate the sacrifices of our nation's fallen and how they can apply their own character strengths to live by their example of service. One of the other great additions that we've been filtering into this mix through our Veteran Youth Mentorship Program is really around the activation with our TMF youth clubs. And this is personally one of my favorite components of our program, is simply the fact that veterans and families of the fallen can mentor young adults, teach them about character and leadership, and share their experiences and how to build character within their own lives. But I think it's so important that the kids are then able to take that message and translate that in a way that's meaningful within their own lives. So it's been really powerful to see that these youth clubs, which really organically started several years ago, we actually started with 2, and now we have over 32 youth clubs. And these youth clubs are where high school students are actually embodying that if not me, then who ethos within their own community. So they're finding ways to serve and step up and bring the rest of their school, their community, and other networks. So it's a great way for them to continue living by what they're learning and bringing that back in a very meaningful way. One other thing that we piloted this past year was we have 2, what we're calling teams of character. And these were really pilot sites where TMF was empowering coaches and other community leaders to develop character in youth athletes off the field. So more to come on that front, but we've been seeing a growing need for this with schools, especially around sports and athletics. So all of this great work, and thank you to so many, because I know many of our mentors are joining today, but we are so thankful for our partners, Under Armour, and for the A. James and Alice B. Clark Foundation. They continue to drive all the work and the support that we're doing on our Veteran Youth Mentorship Program, Character Does Matter. So thank you for that. The next thing I want to talk about is our growth in chapters this past year. And you may hear that word and wonder, what is a chapter? Chapters are really our boots on the ground. We are able to provide a local footprint for all of our programming to really live in different cities all across the country. Most of our chapters are all focused on service initiatives and various athletic events that we offer throughout the year at Travis Manion Foundation. The great thing about chapters, because we are a nonprofit and we can't have amazing staff in each and every city that has a demand and a need for our services, we have been very fortunate to train and develop volunteers in each city to help lead our efforts around growing our chapters. And over the past year, we've grown to 40 total chapters, including 6 new just this past year and 3 that were dormant that have been recently revived. We also have another 10 chapters and 10 cities in the pipeline for the year ahead. And again, this is a great way for people to get introduced and really involved in local programming. And the great thing about our service initiatives and our athletic events is it's a great opportunity for anyone to connect with our programming at Travis Manion Foundation. It's not just veterans and survivors, it's a community for all. And I want to share this, our growth in chapters is something that's really taken place over the last 3 to 4 years. And just to give you an example, in 2021, we started with 11 just very natural, organic, volunteer-led chapters. And this year, our 40 chapters executed 116 service projects and activated over 3,200 volunteers, including 639 youth who took part in everything from cemetery, neighborhood cleanups, food drives, and visits to different veteran homes, other beautification and restoration projects that were very relevant and important to the needs of those specific cities. One big example of a way that we've been able to really grow our service initiatives through our presence and growth in chapters is through our Memorial Day service initiative called the Honor Project. And Josh is going to touch a little bit more on that in just a bit, but this has been a great way for us to not only serve locally, but on Memorial Day, when our country traditionally honors and remembers the sacrifices of the men and women who served our country and are no longer with us. And it's been a great way. This past year, we were able to increase to 47 locations at cemeteries and activate over 2,000 volunteers. And we honored the memory and the lives of 10,000 fallen heroes. So it's been really powerful to see the growth within the Honor Project, but that's just one example of some of the service that's happening in these local chapters all across the country. So great things in store for us there on the chapter front ahead. The next thing I want to talk about, and this is really one of our very special programs, it's called the Spartan Leadership Program. This is a very highly competitive, application-based, 7-month, fully immersive leadership development program that has a virtual and in-person element. They do a week in Colorado where they really test themselves through challenging themselves, both physically and mentally. We also offer various amounts of guest speakers from different sectors, from for-profit, corporate, government, to really share and define what leadership looks like to them and how they can share that sentiment with our participants. This program is exclusively for families of the fallen and for veterans, and they go through this program and they end with a capstone service project. And what I love about this program, as throughout the 7 months that they're all together, they're really focused on 4 key components. One is that personal growth and self-development piece. 2 is the ability to connect with other veterans in the community and other families of the fallen, and the ability to challenge themselves. Because I think we can all attest to the fact that when we're put out of our comfort zone or we're doing things that are outside of the box, we often learn and grow from those experiences. The third component is to serve. That is something that you will hear throughout everything that we do, the importance of being able to continue to serve in meaningful ways. And last but not least, it allows them to build a legacy. So many great things that we've been able to accomplish. We just wrapped up last year our 6th cohort of veterans and families of the fallen, and we are about to launch our 7th cohort here in just a few weeks in April. We have had 133 veterans and survivors who have now graduated from the program, and 84 whom have gone on to be some of our most active and engaged leaders across the country. 26 of that 133 are now part of our chapter leadership teams, and 80 have become active Character Does Matter mentors across the country. So really great ways for them to take everything that they learned from the course of those 7 months and learn how to pay that forward in a very meaningful way that inspires others to live a life of service. So I just want to continue to thank, that program would not be possible without the generous support of our partners at Boeing and the USAA Foundation. So thank you all so very much. I want to turn it over to Josh to talk a little bit about the model that we use here at Travis Manion Foundation and really this proactive, preventative approach to mental health and well-being. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Amy. Thanks for that. I want to start off by sharing a very important statistic. 3 times as many veterans have now died by suicide since 2001 as have died through combat operations. Veteran suicide is 57% higher than the national average. And I think a big reason for this problem is that a lot of people don't really understand the issue of veteran suicide. It's very complex. There's a lot of different factors that are driving those numbers. And I think one thing that we can help educate people is about the way that the system is currently designed to help veterans. Right now, our system is very reactive. We have many great organizations out there who help veterans when they're experiencing some of the symptoms and are in crisis. And that's very important. Clinical mental health care is a very important part of helping veterans once they are in crisis. But it's not sufficient. One thing that TMS, through our community and through all of the different activities that Amy was just talking about, is provide that proactive approach to mental health and well-being. I would think of it just like you do with your physical health. We all know that there are certain activities that we can take today that help our physical health, right? We have to eat properly, eat nutritious foods. We have to have a certain level of activity, sleep, etc. And those things all make us healthier. There are intentional activities that have been proven to help our mental health and well-being. And 2 of the most important of those activities are, 1, making sure that we have a supportive community around us, making sure that when times are tough, that we have people that we can lean on to help us out, friends who are there for us. And second is making sure that we have a sense of purpose, that we have that next mission in life, especially for those who are used to serving their country through military service. And the important thing about those 2 intentional activities, having a strong community and a sense of purpose, is that not only are those 2 of the most important protective factors against negative mental health and putting us at risk for suicide, but they're also 2 of the most important components of positive mental health and well-being. I always like to say some of the best ways to play defense is to leave your offense on the field. If you think about mental health and well-being as a spectrum, where all the way to the right are people that are thriving, you can't do any better, and all the way to the left are people who are in crisis. The best thing that we can do is aim to keep moving to the right, because as we move to the right towards thriving, by definition, we're moving away from crisis. And so, right now, what I want to encourage anyone listening, for yourself and for those people that are in your community, in your circle of influence, your friends, your family, is help to encourage people today, right now, no matter where they are on that mental health and well-being spectrum, to take intentional time to do these activities, to make sure that we have that community in place right now before we ever have any sort of problem, to make sure that everybody has a way to continue to serve. And of course, we would love that to be through Travis Manion Foundation. But whether it is or isn't, the important thing is that you have that way of serving. You could be a coach for your kids' sports teams. You could be a Boy Scout, Girl Scout, troop leader. It doesn't matter. The important thing is that everybody has that way of continuing to serve. One of the most important accomplishments that Travis Manion had last year was making sure that we had a way of identifying veterans and families of the fallen who were starting to experience some of the symptoms of negative mental health and well-being, that they had an unmet mental health need that was short of crisis. And last year, we identified over 100 veterans and families of the fallen that were starting to experience some of those symptoms, like having trouble sleeping or were experiencing increased stress or anxiety, and helping to connect them to two of our greatest partners. One is Wounded Warrior Project. They have best-in-class clinical mental health care programs that help post 9/11 veterans. So if you're a post 9/11 veteran and you're experiencing any of the symptoms of negative mental health, I highly recommend you can connect through us or directly with Wounded Warrior Project. But please make sure that you address those symptoms today before they become crisis. And the second organization is through the Bush Institute and their check-in program to help all the pre-9/11 veterans as well as families of the fallen, making sure that we're addressing those unmet mental health needs. But again, in addition to addressing people that are in crisis, and I am so grateful to all the organizations and all the people that support organizations who help when veterans are in crisis with clinical mental health care. But in addition to that, we also just need to broaden the way that we think about mental health care, to broaden the way that we think about avoiding suicide and really thinking of that proactive approach to mental health and well-being. I'm going to give you two more really important statistics. Every year we do an annual member survey and we track people that are involved in TMF programs. And what we found through these annual member surveys is that people that are involved in multiple activities with TMF, so people who are really members of our community and choose to serve through TMF, have increased their sense of connectedness by 60%. And the second one is that tracking their overall mental health and well-being score, which is called thriving, that's the technical term that positive psychology uses, has increased their mental health and well-being score by 20% overall. So it really speaks to how we can take people who are somewhere in the middle of that mental health and well-being spectrum and improve those components of well-being and overall improve the mental health and well-being to help move people towards thriving and away from crisis. And I truly believe that if we are going to impact the overall veteran suicide problem, it's going to be through taking this proactive approach. Of course, we need people who are there when somebody's in crisis. That's incredibly important, and we need to continue to do that, and we need to do more of that. But we also need to think about the full spectrum of mental health and well-being. We need to get ahead of the problem and help people before it becomes a crisis by taking actions through communities such as Travis Manion Foundation to make sure everybody has the support they need and the people around them that will help them when they face those challenges that we're all going to face in life, and to make sure that we have that sense of purpose and that next mission after we leave active military service. Okay, so in addition to some of those statistics, we also want to introduce you to two people that can speak to TMF's model, two people that have been impacted by our proactive approach and by our TMF programs. So I would like to welcome Army veterans and two of our great TMF volunteer leaders, Terri Bell and Mike Hoherchak.
All right, thanks, Josh. Hi, Mike. Hi, Terri.
How's it going?
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you for taking time out to join us today. We are, like I said earlier, Josh and I can share a lot about all the great impact that we're having in various numerous ways, but you two are both the boots on the ground that I was talking about earlier. You've obviously both transitioned out of active duty service, and I know just based on your stories that you both have faced your own obstacles over time in that transition process. I know, Mike, something that you always say is that you don't really know you're in crisis when you're in the military. You don't really necessarily find out until later. I'll start with you, Mike. Talk to us about how did you find TMF and what were you really looking for in your transition journey when you discovered this community here at TMF?
Yeah. So I didn't actually find TMF until 10 years after I left the military. So I left in 2009, found it in 2019. And I always wanted to keep my finger on the pulse of the veteran community, always try to stay involved and volunteer in some capacity. Um, and really because I was looking for another community that I didn't really identify with veterans in crisis. So I was looking for veterans who were thriving and wanted to do better and take what they've learned in the military and just move that forward. And I really couldn't find it because there's a plethora of other organizations that focus on vets in crisis, which is needed for sure. But I was really looking for um, just something else, something more than just getting back to baseline because I felt like I was already there. And when I found TMF, I was very pleasantly surprised. This is definitely the place for me.
No, thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting that it can take that amount of time to kind of get connected to the resources that are right for you in the part of the journey where you are at that moment. So great point to note. Terri, same question for you. How did you find TMF and what did that look like for you during your journey?
Sure. So for me, I kind of have to tell a quick story first. Um, well, I had got out of the military around 2018. And I knew that, or the army, excuse me. And I knew that I wanted to continue to serve, but in a different capacity. So I left the military to be a missionary. And I was able to travel to some amazing places, Haiti, different places, kingdoms in Africa, and really do some hands-on serving. Um, and so shortly after that, the pandemic hit. And we couldn't travel anymore. And so I didn't know how I was going to continue serving. And so what I ended up doing is I got involved in athleticism with strength training, and I became a professional bodybuilder. And so shortly after that, I got connected with a group called organization called Fit Ops. And so Fit Ops, while I was there, they basically teach military people how to become personal trainers. And so while I was there, I was connected with the Beaver Fit vendor, and we kind of talked it up. And he was like, your view on life and what you want to do, there's an organization called the Travis Manion Foundation that you need to, as soon as you leave here, connect with. And I did that, and it absolutely has changed my life. You guys came in my life when I needed a community, and I felt so out of place. Like I wasn't sure where my place was anymore. Um, and you allowed me to really just run with my ideas, and I'm just so grateful. I'm very grateful. I feel like Travis Manion Foundation really helped me just find the group of people that I needed.
Yeah, Terri, thanks for sharing your full journey. I actually didn't realize that you went on to serve as a missionary. So that's a pretty interesting fact. One of the things that I know you found kind of your love for TMF through that connection to physical fitness, but I know one thing that you've become really active and engaged, since I know we both obviously live in the Chicago communities. Talk a little bit about what that piece of having the ability to mentor youth and even kind of tying in some of the physical fitness that you've been able to incorporate to kind of align with all areas, that mentorship piece and physical fitness activation as well. Could you share a little bit about that for us?
Absolutely. So it's no secret that the Chicago youth and area just needs as much love as possible. And so for an organization like Travis Manion to have, character development uh, and that can go into the school systems and even into athletic events has been, I think, a game changer for the Chicagoland in general. And so I was able to be a part of a gym creation, if you will, called the intentional sports. And so in the Austin community, in the Chicago area on the west side. And so here's a community that's underserved. They basically took a land mass and turned it into this sports center and community center that had been vacant, I think they said, for 40 years. Okay. It's been vacant for 40 years. And so we were able to use, I guess, my influence to help establish a Travis Manion Beaver Fit gym. And so whenever the youth in the community and other neighboring communities too, because they have people competing and doing lots of things there, are able to get, word and understand about Travis Manion. And so what will happen oftentimes is we'll have youth come in there. Normally we'll do a workout and then maybe at the beginning of the workout, we also get to introduce them to different characteristics, and then we'll talk about them at the end of the workout. And I'm able to, with the rest of the people in Chicago, give the CDMs right on the spot. And then we also partner with other veteran organizations and allow them to come and work out as well there. And they get some of that training as well. And so it's just been a pleasure. A lot of great feedback.
Yeah, no, I know you've been instrumental in this community and ensuring that, like I said earlier, our youth are lacking positive role models, and who not better to have that influence from someone that has, served in the military, become a missionary, and done various other ways of giving back and serving, and you being that example for them. I think it's really powerful in many ways. I just want to touch on one thing that you said a couple times through Beaver Fit. There may be new people here that are probably like, what is the Beaver Fit? So this is a mobile fitness trailer, if I may say, that we have several of them that we use throughout the country to really activate when we go to schools and we're working through our character development and leadership program. We're really able to offer tangible ways for them to activate, because we all know middle school and high school students, they need to be active in doing something in order to reinforce some of these concepts that we're teaching. So it's been a very great way for us to take our veteran youth mentorship program on the road in some essence. So just wanted to give some extra clarity around that. Yeah, thank you, Terri. I appreciate you sharing all that. One thing that I want to, talk with you both about, just kind of shifting subjects a little bit. Josh brought up some great points around mental health and well-being, the importance that, there are so many that are in this crisis state. And if we can sort of find the veterans that are in the middle and help them move to a greater state of thriving, giving them community, giving them meaning and purpose. Mike, I'm going to start with you. Why do you think that so many veterans are actually struggling with their mental health? And how do you think that TMF fits into that mold? And how could that help them?
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. And I'll just kind of talk about it from my own perspective. When I was in the military, they really tried to train us on making the right decision, right? And even if you made the wrong decision, to have that confidence and conviction to kind of go with it a little bit anyway, regardless, just because what I think what that built was trust in yourself. And then if your subordinates were looking at you for that path forward, they needed to have that trust in you as well. So just being able to have confident decision-making abilities was super important, because in the military, our foundation of our relationships were based on trust. So when we get out, now we have to learn how to be our own private. We have to learn how to be our own first sergeant, our own captain, our own general, right? Our own planner and executioner of all of our plans. And when that happens, we kind of lose that community support. And when our community is our currency, it's really difficult to not feel isolated. So we start to struggle, because now we're questioning our own decisions, right? And for me, I know, I had a business that just failed. Like it was doing really well until it wasn't, and I didn't know what to do, and I kind of lost that in my identity a little bit. And I think not having a community really affected my mental health. So how can TMF benefit somebody like that? Again, going back to you can't really see the picture when you're in the frame. Having that community around you to support you to kind of bounce ideas off of and even check you when you're doing something wrong, I think that's invaluable and it makes you feel like you belong and it makes you feel like you still have a purpose and a mission.
Yeah, and I think it seems almost critical. Obviously, I didn't serve in the military myself, but even from a survivor's perspective of my own, like it's very important to have that connectivity. And I think a lot of what we're talking about today is recognizing that need for community even earlier on than kind of waiting till we get to a place of we're in trouble, we're in crisis, and the importance of that. And I think if we can get more people connected earlier on in their journey, it only will help them in various ways. And I love that you bring up the point of trust and having those others around you that can check yourself. I think that's incredibly important in that mix too. So thanks for sharing, Mike.
For sure.
Terri, any thoughts on that from your lens?
Sure. So for me, I think I didn't even really know to look for community when I got out of the military. I just thought it was like on to the next thing and I would probably just, do well. But you do well, I think in the beginning, or you kind of, are used to a certain routine, but then when you're out here in the civilian world and you don't have those systems that you had, in the military, it's like, what do you fall on or fall, who can you call? And for me, having a community with the similar values, that was everything. Um, Even being a missionary, I would have thought that, just the faith-based connection would have been enough, but it wasn't. Again, because those systems weren't in place. And so when you're used to being a leader, you want to lead. And so um, it's not always accepted in certain spaces. And so I know for me, it made me cower a little bit. Like, why do I feel out of place? And that made me want to kind of look inward and kind of like hide a little bit because I felt out of place and I didn't know how to pull myself out of that space mentally. And again, just having the community of like-minded people, even those at the Travis Manion Foundation who will send you a text message, give you a call, check on you, like that's so important. It's so needed. Um, and so, you know, the community is everything.
Thank you for sharing that, Terri. It's so interesting because you both have shared. I think there's been different cycles where you almost needed different components from different areas of support. And I'm sure, either one of you feel free to elaborate, but was there a place in your journey after your transition that you felt like it was really critical that you noticed it, or was it just something natural that you felt like all of a sudden you needed and you were missing something? Did that just come more naturally, or was it something that you just felt like you already kind of evolved into that next chapter and meeting people who had connected you?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. I think for me, it was something that naturally evolved after doing so many different things that just wasn't it.
Mhm.
I didn't know that I didn't know what I needed until I actually went through different organizations and did different things in different capacities to really understand what I actually needed. And I think that's where a lot of other veterans kind of hold back is that they think they have one specific direction and that's the only direction that there is. So they get really myopic when they leave the military. So
And I think it's probably natural to say that a lot of people, I think when they transition out, we always hear it's, okay, what's the job? What's next on my list? It's almost like there's things and community and purpose don't necessarily fall in that top priority list until you're in those moments and you realize it's something that's lacking. So Terri, any final thoughts on that before we move on, or?
No.
Okay. Well, I want to ask you both, and Terry, I'll start with you on this one. If you had any message or sentiment that you could share with other veterans who may have experienced some of the challenges that you faced, um, what advice would you give to them prior to connecting to TMF?
Absolutely. Um, I would just say be open-minded to change. We all kind of have an idea of how we want our life to play out. Um, but just know that even after the military, you get to paint on your own canvas. And so, take time to look at the things that you're good at that, make you happy. Look at your values. And, you know, once you have those things established, I believe that you can come to an organization like Travis Manion and find that there are people that are on that same path as you are. And it's a bumpy road, but it does get better. And so just, you know, keep charging forward. It might look a little different, but you can still thrive. We were built to thrive.
Right. And you said something, I know when we talked earlier, being the creator of your own life. I thought that was really, really important because it's kind of embodying everything we've talked about today. If not me, then who? Like, you really have the ability to shape that and make it look like how you want it to look. But we also have to recognize that sometimes we don't have the ability to do that, that we need to lean on others. And that is okay to do that,
That's
to help
okay.
create that next step.
That's good.
I'm like, you said it. So
I
it was.
did.
Mike, any final thoughts on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say this, one of the very first things that I had to learn when I left the military, I kind of mentioned it before, was how to be my own uh, planner and executioner of those plans, right? So like you said earlier, you are the common denominator in your life. So you can either be the victim of your circumstances or you can be the victor of your circumstances. And sometimes if you don't know what to do or how to do it, a lot of the times it's just a matter of trying these different things, like I mentioned before, to see what you are good at, to see what you do enjoy, and sometimes it's hard to have that identity shift of doing something new, but it's critical to have a good life. So,
The victor of your circumstances. I had to jot that one down. That's a excellent kind of mantra to keep with us. I would ask you both if I'm sure there might be individuals who have never been involved with Travis Manion Foundation before that are joining for the first time, and probably those that have been around for a while. If someone was debating getting involved with TMF, what would you say to them at this point in your own respective journey? Uh, Terri, I'll start with you on that one.
Okay, absolutely. So if you're someone that's on the fence, that are kind of dating Travis Manion right now, the Travis Manion Foundation, I would say definitely take the time to ask the questions that you need to make the decision. Um, to you know don't wait too long to get involved, to serve on this level, to be a part of a community um, of people that will allow you to take the ideas that you have within inside of you and be impactful in your community needs you, not just that you need this community, but your community needs you. And so here's your opportunity to continue to serve. And so I would say welcome to the family. Let's go.
Like that. Welcome to the family. Mike, any final thoughts on your part?
yeah, I mean that was a really good answer, Terry. It's hard to follow that one up. But what I'll say is this, growth really happens outside of your comfort zone by definition, right? So a lot of the times as veterans, we do like to isolate. And then before you know it, you're kind of normalizing your negative patterns. And we really need to get out of that normalization. So if you're really debating on getting involved, I always like the analogy that the fruit doesn't belong to the tree, it belongs to the ecosystem.
Mm.
And we all have our own specific gifts that we need to share. Because if we hold it in, that's where we start to isolate more and start slowly become the veteran in crisis. It's like the frog in boiling water, right? We don't know it until we're in it. So I think it's really important to fix your roof, not while it's raining, but when it's sunny out. So try the Travis Manion Foundation, see what you think, right? That's the only way to really understand if you're going to like it or not, is to actually do it.
Well, thank you, Terry. Thank you, Mike. You both have been very honest and very candid, which I think makes it so much easier to understand that, you're not in the place that you are now just because you snapped your fingers and that happens, but you both have taken the time to really do the work. And I see the investments that TMF has made in the two of you and the great work that you're continuing to do in serving others, but also just being honest about the journey and what that looks like, the ups, the downs, and the not so pretty at times. So thank you both for being here, and thank you for sharing today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And on that note, I want to bring Josh back into the conversation. He is going to share a little bit more with all of you. While I shared some of our past accomplishments, he is going to share what's on the horizon for 2025 and beyond.
Thanks, Amy. And I'll start off by saying, Terry and Mike, great job there. Two of the great examples of why I love being part of this community. And I want to share a little bit about where we're headed over the long term, and specifically a couple of the things that you can expect to see this year. I'll repeat how Amy started this webinar by describing who we are as an organization. We are a community led by veterans and families of the fallen, but open to all who want to serve together, support each other, and strengthen communities. And you're going to see us growing that community over the long term. We want more people like Terri and Mike to be a part of this community, helping us to develop character in the next generation and strengthen communities. So as you think of the next 10 years, we have a couple of big goals. We want 100,000 veterans and families of the fallen leading this community. We want 1 million total Spartan members out there living with character and putting the if not me, then who ethos into action by serving others in over 100 locations across the country with a TMF chapter activating locally, and over 1 million youth inspired to live with character and putting character into action. I can tell you we're already making progress towards those goals. Right now, we currently have about 300,000 members out there doing good work under the TMF umbrella. Our veteran mentors have already inspired and developed character in about 750,000 young adults. So we're well on the way to hitting that 1 million mark within the next couple years. As we think of the long term, we've divided our 10-year strategy up into 3 phases. Phase 1 is all about building out the infrastructure needed in order to grow intentionally in phase 2. Right now, our focus is on the volunteer leaders, making sure that we're investing in them and that we have the volunteer leaders around the country serving as veteran mentors for Character Does Matter, serving as chapter leadership teams in locations and communities across the country, and all the other important volunteer leader roles like our Heroes Runs and other athletic events, service events, etc. Phase 2, the intentional growth, that's going to be focused on bringing in more volunteers who are going out there to these service events and to the other events hosted by TMF, putting their character into action. And then phase 3 is really about growing that total number of members towards that 1 million goal of 1 million Spartans out there inspired by Travis Manion Foundation, who choose to get involved, who go to our website, who join the mission, commit to living a life of character, and put the if not me, then who ethos into action in their local community. This year specifically, as we focus on our volunteer leaders, we're going to continue to invest. This past year, we created a course that's going to teach mental health and well-being for the volunteer leaders so that they understand some of the protective factors that I mentioned earlier about how to avoid being in crisis and how to identify people who look like they have an unmet mental health need, how to refer them to clinical mental health care through our great partners that I mentioned earlier, Wounded Warrior Project and the Bush Institute. We turned that course into an e-course to make it more accessible for our volunteer leaders. We're going to invest into more summits. We have community summits for all of our chapters to get together at the community level, to train, to share best practices and talk about ways to activate. We're going to really invest in more in-person time together, serving together at the local level and connecting with each other. You're going to see some more innovative programming, especially within the Character Does Matter program, so that veterans have more ways to engage youth and develop their character, and the youth have more ways to go out and put that character into action, impacting their school and their communities, growing the number of TMF youth clubs across the country. We currently have about 40 of them. And these are all youth-led with veteran mentors supporting them. And there's tremendous demand out there from the kids that go through our Character Does Matter program who really want more, and they want the opportunity to serve others. And so our goal is to be able to give them that opportunity. Right now, we're working on a young adult book to help us specifically with character development among elementary school aged kids. And then the other big initiative within our programming is delivering our leadership program to more people in different ways. This past year, we had 160 veterans and families of the fallen apply for our Spartan Leadership Program. That program is designed to support 35 in a given year. So we're going to look for more ways to incorporate all the people that are looking for leadership development, and to make sure that our leadership development programs are more accessible to all the veterans and families of the fallen that are looking for it. So that's just a quick overview of some of the things that you can expect this year. I also want to mention some of the opportunities that each of you that are listening today have to get involved. You know, number one, as we talk about growing our total membership over the long term, you know, we need your help recruiting more people to join the mission. That's the veterans and families of the fallen leading the community, but that's really everybody out there that shares our values, that wants to serve together with our TMF community. So please go out there, recruit your friends, your family, people within the community to go to our website, join the mission, and find how they best want to get involved and help us serve our communities. We're going to create a TMF ambassador program that helps us to recruit through social media specifically, or however you interact with your friends and your family. Coming up here at the end of April, we'd love for you all to sign up to do the Manion WOD and recruit your friends and family to do the Manion WOD. It's a great way to just show up and be a part of this community, but also to challenge yourself physically. And we hope that you all choose to sign up through our website. Coming up at the end of May around Memorial Day, we have the Honor Project. This year, we're going to be in about 40 national cemeteries around the country. For those of you who are not familiar, the Honor Project is a way to serve on Memorial Day. The families who are unable to go visit their loved one in national cemeteries around the country submit the name of their fallen hero, and then we have members go out, visit their fallen hero, take a picture, send it to their family member. We have thousands of volunteers getting together on Memorial Day to serve together through the Honor Project. Again, please go to the website, sign up for that. And lastly, just check out all the incredible local activations that are available through your local chapter through the website. And with that, I'd like to invite Amy back, and we'll answer some of the questions that have been coming in.
All right. All right. Thanks, Josh. So we'll start out. I'll throw this one your way to start, but you know, people have asked, what is the biggest lesson that we have learned as an organization this past year?
Yeah, you know, it's hard to be able to provide everything to everyone. You know, I know we would love to do more immediately. We'd love to do everything. We'd love to do everything that everybody wants to do. We always say that we start from a place of yes. So when our amazing members have a great idea, we always want to be able to run with it. And that's truly how we got to where we are today. We've had so many amazing members who have come up with great ideas and they've run with it. And we always want to say yes. Unfortunately, where we're at right now, we just can't take care of everyone and fulfill everything that everyone wants to do. I'll tell you, like from a personal point of view, the biggest challenge is the 160 people that applied for the Spartan Leadership Program, and the fact that right now, with the resources available, we can only accept 35 of those veterans and families that have fallen into that program. And so that's why we're trying to figure out additional ways to bring our leadership programs to all those veterans and families that have fallen who want to be part of the Spartan Leadership Program but are unable to this year.
Yeah, I think we have seen, especially this past year, that the demand is certainly there, and we are seeing it more and more each and every day. And I think for us, with the expansion and growth of our chapters, which has been huge and instrumental in how we are able to have various touch points in different cities that have needs across the country, there is only so much bandwidth that we can support as an organization. So I think we've kind of behind the scenes started having those conversations, making sure that we are prepared to support. It may not look like the exact programming, but some iteration that is available to those, because I think the hardest thing that we always have to do is to say no to someone. I think that's very hard for all of us in many
Or at least not now.
Yes, not now. That's right. So, okay. Moving right along, next question. And I can take this one since I've kind of been talking about chapters and the growth and support, but we had a question that came through that it's very clear that chapters have been a even bigger emphasis than in years past. How do I get connected to my closest chapter, and what kinds of activities do chapters participate in? So great question. Josh mentioned the recruitment efforts that we're doing through our Join the Mission on our website. And for anyone that's looking to get involved in any capacity with our programming, our events, service opportunities, you go to travismanion.org, and there is a square icon at the top that says Join the Mission. When you fill out your information, you are then connected with local offerings within your communities. Chapter involvement, chapter service projects, whatever is local to you within that respective area. So I would encourage you that is a great starting place. And in regards to activities, like I said earlier, we always start off with a lot of service initiatives. And just because we mentioned the growth within our Memorial Day service initiative called the Honor Project, which is coming up very soon, it's a great way for us to start, because there are always needs in every single community that look different based upon what's happening there. So I would encourage you, if you want to serve, it's a great opportunity to connect with other volunteers that are already connected within the organization. They can share more about what they're involved with. But I also think if service is something that is for you, that's a great first step. We also offer all of our offerings for athletic events. So everything from the Manion workout of the day, the 9/11 Heroes Run, which is our 5K initiative that we run around September 11th every year, and Jogging for Frogmen, various different opportunities, whether you want to connect through running or physical fitness. I think there's something for everyone, especially at each chapter that we have. And now there's 40 and 10 more in the docket. So you'll have 50 different locations by the end of 2025 to choose from. So anything else on that, Josh, that you want to add?
No, I think you nailed it.
All right. All right, Josh, I'll let you take this one. Can you talk to the audience more about the mental health and well-being resources that we have available at TMF?
Yeah, so this is really at the heart of how we respond when we identify that somebody has an unmet mental health need, right? Before we do that, we have to make sure that our volunteer leaders are prepared to identify some of those signs that somebody is a little bit off, that somebody may have an unmet mental health need, and then to teach them how to connect them to those resources that I mentioned earlier that provide the clinical mental health care. So we have a mental health and well-being training for volunteer leaders. Also, I want to point to our Leading with Your Strengths curriculum, which we've been teaching for years. And that goes over the basics of positive psychology, the components of well-being. And then you take the strength finder, it's called values in action. It helps you identify your character strengths, because at the heart of meaning, relationships, and engagement, 3 of the components that lead to well-being is understanding what it means to feel engaged is all about leveraging your strengths and your passions in all different aspects of your life, how you interact at work, with your family, and how you show up as a community leader. So you put that all together, understanding your strengths and applying them to all those different facets. And that's what we teach in leading with your strengths. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have time to answer any more questions, Amy.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for spending this last hour with us. And again, thank you to Terri and Mike, who I think are truly amazing advocates and Spartans within their community. You know, I just want to say we've talked about a lot of different touch points, and you know, we talked about everything from community, mental health and well-being, suicide prevention, connectivity, so many different elements that are important through the work that we do at Travis Manion Foundation. But I always like to end by just saying the why behind and the reason that we have always existed is that through everything that we do, it is ensuring that the legacy of our fallen heroes is never forgotten. Their stories continue to be told and shared with youth across the country. That element is so critical to why we continue to exist as an organization. And, you know, coming up on the 18 years of the loss of Travis Manion and, you know, honoring my late husband, Brendan Looney, they are truly examples of what this movement has started, but they really represent this next generation of men and women that have stepped up to serve. And we want to make sure that we're continuing to honor the memory, keep the stories alive. And as Josh mentioned, there's two great ways coming up to do that. Go to the website, travismanion.org. Our Manion workout of the day is a great way to physically test yourself in very new capacities, but there's something for everyone there. And also the Honor Project is coming up for Memorial Day. You know, we encourage you to keep the stories alive, keep the memory alive, and encourage you to connect and be a part of a community that is so much bigger than each and every one of us. So thank you all for your time, and we look forward to seeing you out in the community. Bye.